If you have always wondered how to play Kings of War online with Universal Battle 2 or how to play by email asynchronously, this is the video for you. Stay tuned.
Hello there! I like to watch battle reports to get better at games. So I started making short, summarized battle reports that focus on learning points. So welcome to my channel, Newbie Dice. Do like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you enjoy my videos. Do consider speeding up this video with the YouTube settings to consume this content or other YouTube content in a fraction of the time. Now, this is not the first video to talk about playing Kings of War on Universal Battle or playing by email, so I'd like to shout out to the previous creators that have done this video. So first up, we have Hobby Sauce, who created the video of how to play Kings of War with Universal Battle, and then we have Steve from Death by Dragons teaching how to play by email using Universal Battle 2. So the reason why I made this video is because I'd like to consolidate the information into one video, and Universal Battle 2 has some updates which essentially make play by email slightly different right now. So I'd like to go through them. So Universal Battle 2 is a simulator software, sort of like Tabletop Simulator, but this is in 2D and is designed to play rank and flank games very smoothly. So most of the people that play Universal Battle 2, they're either playing 9th Age or Kings of War. So it's a top-down 2D view, and it's a very graphic friendly. It's 2D, so it's not very intensive on your graphics. So you can play it on a web browser, even on your work computer. Okay, it's recommended to play on a browser. They have a PC app version of it, but I find the app kind of very laggy and slow. They also have it on mobile devices, but playing by touchscreen is also quite clunky. So there are new features that make the games even smoother to play, and it's still, of course, still not as easy to play compared to physical game where you can just pick up the models and place them. Okay, because it's also ultra precise. I can measure exactly 5 inches and not 5.1, exactly 2-degree pivot, you know. So if you play against an opponent live, okay, it will take about 2.5 hours if you're fast. Most games I find take about 3 hours. Okay, and if both players are a little slow, it will take up to 4 hours. Okay, recent Universal Battle tournaments seem to have a chess clock implemented so that we don't take too long to play. I think we're given 75 minutes each because it's still clunkier than playing on a physical board, right? So we have about 75 minutes each if I didn't remember wrongly. So that's about 2.5 hours plus a little bit of setup time. It will be all within 3 hours, I guess. Alright, so we can play asynchronously, and it's also known as play by email or PBEM. We don't really use emails anymore, and now we don't need to use share accounts. Previously, you need to play on the same account. That means you have to share your account login information with another player. So now you don't need to anymore. So playing asynchronously means I can play my turn and I send the file to the opponent, and then he will play his turn. So we can play on different times. The games can last 2 or 3 days because we play it one turn at a time, but we don't have to sit down through the entire game at one shot. So I'll do a demonstration now. The website is universalbattle2.com. Okay, and then we're going to click here to play now. All right, and it will load up the game. It might take some time. Okay, there we go. So you can register a new account, and you just have to provide this 3 information. And I've already created, and this is a brand new account, so it's as if I'm doing this for the first time. So I'm going to log in. You can go to a pro account, which I highly recommend once you get the hang of it and you decide that you're going to play some games via the Universal Battle, because 1 year is $30. Okay, so there are some features that are locked when you are playing on a free account. So for example, when you create armies, these features are locked. You can't create your own models, nor can you take models from other people's armies. Okay, you can only access the standard library of models, which are all singularly based, not multi-based. Okay, and I guess they are more meant for fantasy or 9th Age. So these are the default races and default unit profiles. So I'm just going to quickly switch over my pro account. So it has it's paid and it has unlocked the features. So you can create armies like this. So this pencil tab over here are the armies that I've created, and I can add a new unit to it. So I just click over here. So starting 20 by 20 square base, you can be round base, square base. Okay, if I want to do a infantry regiment, it is 100 by 80, right? 100 by 80. Okay, so you can put a whole host of races of humanoids, animals,
monsters, stuff like that. So it's really a cute little 2D sort of designing software. You see, I put a human here. I can choose different armor options, right? Head options, so on and so forth. I can put a weapon on him, so a whole host of weapons. I can put an axe over here. You can make it bigger or smaller, like as you wish. Okay, you can turn the angle. You can play with the colors. Okay, and then axe or shield, there is many different varieties of shield, as you can see over here. So let's say I'll just stick with this. I can just select the whole thing and hit duplicate. And if I want to make a whole regiment of them, just keep duplicating. Right, I'm just gonna do this very roughly, right? And there you go, you have a whole regiment of guys. Okay, you can put some basing. You can change the color of the base over here, right? Or you can put a grass tuft. I changed the design. Okay, I'll just hit this a lot of times, and there you have it. You have a unit. You can name it. Okay, warriors. Maybe you want to put the nerf down, so for easy reference, you can hit the tab, the information tab, where you can actually copy and paste the entire statistics from your army builder, the companion app, and save it for easy reference in game. But do remember, sometimes when you start creating multiple of the units, you might forget to update the information tab. Okay, so some people just leave it blank. So I can save this unit, and it's part of my library of units over here. Okay, so of course you can go really crazy and have some creative stuff, like this greater earth elemental is just created with pieces of scenic rocks placed together with some eyes. Okay, some people can go really creative, and it can be quite fun in itself. Okay, with that, I'm just gonna go into a game. I'm gonna create a game, test. Okay, I put a password so that people will not come in. Okay, so this is how it looks like when you create a game. Now, if you create a game and somebody joins, you will have to grant them permissions to play. So you click on that player and then press allow user to play, and they are able to have access to the game. So first up, let's talk about the 4 palettes that we have on the bottom left here, starting with the first one, which is the tools palette. This comes with all the measurement templates and tools, such as this 12-inch ruler and this adjustable tape measure. Okay, and then you also have tokens, including the red token that we commonly use for loot and objectives. Alright, as well as something new in the recent QB, we have even a chess clock. So you should have 2 copies of this clock, and then you can keep track of each player's time. Okay, you can duplicate that. Alright, next is the terrain, where you can put terrain pieces. Is the map palette on the second one. Alright, but I'm going to show you how to load up a pre-built map later on. Okay, next is the unit palette, and this is where you can load up units. Alright, right now I have my Green Lady army loaded up. When you click change army, you can search, pick different armies. The loading is a little bit slow, so I think I won't go through them. So the second one will be my armies that I've saved. The third one are bookmarked armies, and I could search armies as well. So for example, I've never played EOD. I just want to try it out. By searching EOD, you can see many players creating EOD units, and you can load them up and use them. So I'm just going to cancel that. I'm just going to load 1 unit of water elementals. I'm going to add, and it will drop in the center of the map. Okay, I could also choose this arrow, and it will drop in the other orientation. Don't worry about the orientation though, because you can turn it around using this wheel. If you hold down the shift button, now it moves in 45-degree increments, so you can easily turn it 180 degrees around. Okay, you can select multiple units as well and turn it around if you're deploying on the top edge instead of the bottom. So next is the dice. So you can roll a d6. You can change this to a d2, d12, or even a d20. Okay, you can roll multiple dice. So if I roll 10d6, it will show on the chat log, and best of all, it will show you how many dice are 2+, 3+, 4+, 5+, and 6+, so you don't have to count them. So when we start a game, we would usually roll a map and a scenario. So scenario, there are 12, so we'll just roll a d12 for the scenario. Scenario 3, I'm not going to look that up. And then map, we'll roll a d20, because in Epic Dwarf there are 20 maps. And then I wrote map 11. So how am I going to load it up? I'll just go to the map palette and click load. Alright, and I go and search. I just type KOW map, which is what most of the maps are saved as, and there we go. You can have multiple pages of this, but the map 11 is on the first page. Alright, this was created by Swordmaster in 2017, and this looks good. I will just load it up. Okay, and to lock the terrain pieces in place while we wait for the terrain to load, there is this padlock icon. Okay, so even if it's locked, if you just load new pieces, it will still be movable. So you need to unlock and lock again. So if it's unlocked, I can move this hill. If it's locked, I can't move this hill anymore. Okay, you can turn on the grid, and there you can see, the grid in 1 inch increments. So you can set up the deployment zone with a 12-inch ruler over here. Okay, you can use an adjustable tape measure, following the grid, drawing out your 12-inch deployment zone. Okay, and you can start deploying units by dropping them down. Okay, and oops, it's in the wrong facing, so I'll turn it around like so. We will usually load up all our units first before deploying. And what I'm going to show you next is you can also, if you'd like to set up the deployment zone, you can also save all these settings under the bottom right, where you can save and load table arrangements and units. Okay, if the map pieces are here and I load it, it will just overlay over it. Okay, it will just add things onto the table. It will not delete anything from the table. There we go. I have the dominate circle and the control markings as well. So if you're not playing dominate, I'll just delete it. If we're not playing control, I can just delete these markings as well. I'm gonna load up a file. Load local file. So we close one of the files I've loaded, and these are the 2 armies loaded up. So going through some basics in movement, I just click and drag a unit, and it will show me how much it moved as I drag and let go. Okay, and since we can only move in straight lines, right, and pivot, so you would want to lock the X and Y axis over here with this X and Y axis icon. So when I move, it only allows me to move vertically or horizontally. Okay, and with that, I can move 5 inches, all right, like this. Okay, so these are earth elementals. They can move 5 inch anyway, only they can't go at the double. Okay, you can hit the keyboard arrows up, down, left, and right to move forward as well in 1 inch increments. So I just hit forwards 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is also another easy way to move if you're just nudging it forward or you're just brainlessly pushing things forwards. Okay, so because you don't have to move precise mouse movement to have that 5 inch instead of 5.1, you know. Okay, so you can just use the arrow keys. Okay, so if you're playing Universal Battle for the first time or the first few times, you might be very not used to playing as the top player because you're looking at everything upside down. You're very used to being, you know, in real life, you're always looking upwards, right? Okay, so they have this feature to switch it around. There we go. Okay, and then you can do it. But I'm quite used to Universal Battle too, so I don't mind playing as the player who deployed on top. One of the most important features is this one. It will show range markings. So if you're used to it, right, every blue line is 6 inches. Every ring is 1 inch, right? So every third ring is red in color, so that's 3 inches. And then every 6th ring is blue color. So Earth Elemental can charge 10 inches. So I usually look for the second red line, that's 9, and then I add 1. So this is the charge range. Okay, the front arc is there, the middle, the center line, the leader point is also marked. And if you are shooting, so I'm just going to pull this. So this is a war trombone. It has 12 inch. So this is 12 inches, the second blue line. So another new feature that UB2 recently have is that you click on one unit, you hover your mouse over another unit, it will tell you what's the distance. So 11.8, that's within 12 inches. Usually, if you charge 12 inches, that's no problem. But if you shoot 12 inches, remember the range is measured from the center point. So it's more than 12 inches away. So another easy way to do it is to click on the target and look at that 12-inch circle. It should intersect your leader point. So by intersecting the leader point of the war trombone, then you know that it is within 12 inches. There we go. The leader point to the target. There, I can turn on this and it'll show the unit names of all the units. This is especially useful at the start of the game when you have to identify what items people have, because if there's items, it's usually stated in the name. Most of the time when we start playing, we can turn that off. Okay. This is for movement trays. Okay, so because when we create the units is by the multi-base footprint, so this movement tray function is not very useful. This we have talked about earlier, the X and Y axis. When you lock it, you can move only here. So most of the time you're locking it. But for individuals, because they have such freedom of movements, usually I don't lock it like the unicorn. I'm just going to move 10 inches here and I'm just going to face properly. Or sometimes, the charge is very obvious, like this cavalry is going to charge the trombone. If you lock it right, you're like doing this kind of things. Okay, but instead you can just, okay, this is a valid charge. I'm just going to unlock and just drag it over. This next tool is also something new. It's a very useful tool. It is like the undo button. It marks the original placement of this unit. So sometimes I move this one over here, right? I go for a charge and then I start to move other stuff. And then I realize, hey, I think I want to redo this one. So if I undo it, you have to go all the way back, right? So instead, I could just click on this green arrow. It will restart its position. Okay, and what I recommend you do at the start of every turn, before you move your first model, without clicking any units, you press on this arrow button. It will mark the position of all the units. Okay, and then so if I start to move stuff around and I say, oh, I want to redo the earth elemental, there we go. Okay, so it's a very useful tool to have. And then when I press it again, it disappears. Okay, so this is a new tool. Okay, this is a writing tool. So when you turn it on, your cursor will write stuff. What I commonly use it is to draw the edge of the hill. So then I'm going to turn off the pen. So when I move, I can roughly see, okay, I'm still on the hill, right? Click the eraser icon, it disappears. So these are the features of UB2 that makes it really, really easy to play. One feature we also have here, only when you select a unit, you can mark out its corners or a circle. So if I mark out the corners, the front arcs are permanently marked even when I'm not selecting the unit. So this is especially useful if I'm trying to, get out of its front arc. So I move up and yep, just out of its front arc like so. This is a slasher with war trombone. So it moves 7 and shoots 12 inches. So its threat range is 19. So I can draw a 19-inch circle. And that is the threat range. So let's say I want to stay out of this guy's 19-inch shooting threat range. Or maybe two slashers, I want to stay out of both their shooting ranges, so I might be standing somewhere here, right? So by keeping these circles, I can mark out positions, and very commonly for the opponent, maybe the 20-inch bubble of my piece of nature, right? This is how far I can tread, for example. Then you can move all your stuff up to the edge over here, like this. So when you move your stuff up, you just be careful not to step into that circle. And then you can remove it just by reselecting and it's gone. Now, if it's your first time playing, you will want to play with someone who's experienced to guide you through your first game. So one key thing also is usually this is turn on log movements. So that when I move stuff around, you should see the chat log will say exactly how much I move. This is for you to make sure, your opponent, when he moves up 5 inches, at least it states here 5 inches. If not, if you're not looking closely, you don't know how much he actually moved. So the chat log the movement log should be turned on by default. I want to roll dice, so let's say Redemption Knights charge the trombone. I have 20 attacks tripled, so I'm rolling d6s. Most of the time I keep it at d6s, even when I want to roll d3s, like blast or sidestepping after combat, I'll keep it at 6 and I'll divide the result by 2 because sometimes you forgot to switch the die number back. So for the Redemption charging the trombone, I'm going to roll 20 attacks, but actually it's tripled, so 60. And then I'll just keep roll. And I don't need to count. It will tell you 3+. There are 40 dice that are 3+, so I don't have to count how many. So now 40. I roll again. Wounding on 2s, 35 wounds. Okay. So from here, you can press here, plus, and it marks 1 wound on the corner. Or if you use the keyboard, it is the plus and minus next to the 9 and 0 on your keyboard. So when you press plus and minus, you go up and go down on the wounds. And I roll to rout. I roll twice, inspired, and it's dead now, okay? So in a live game, you just delete this model, or the opponent will delete. Okay, in the play by email game, you want to show them that where they died exactly. So usually we will put this one, skull token. Okay, there's another useful tool in this game, the clone tool. By pressing this button, this plus icon, or just hitting K, you will clone a unit. So this is good for testing. Oh, can I fit the charge over here? And then after I'm done, this is your empty base, right? And then after that you delete and use the actual model. Let's next talk about play by email. In play by email, what do you do is most of the time you want to meet your opponent to do the deployment together. So he logs in with his account, you log in with your account, you deploy all your units eventually, right? And he deploy all his units eventually, and then you're gonna hit save. And usually you can't touch the models that are placed by his account. But now there's this new feature. When you hit save, you check this strip user ID, then I hit save as a file. So I can save this as a UB2 file, all right? And we usually save in this format. If we haven't started, 0, okay? I'm playing against Steve in this one. So after I take my first turn, I'll save it as P1S0. I've taken my first turn, he hasn't. And then when he's taken his first turn, P1S1, and so on and so forth. This is how we save the file. So after both of you have deployed, you click on this save as a 0. Then when you load it up, you can access both players' models. That's how I'm able to move his Goblin Slasher right now, because I've loaded it up. The whole point of it is to be able to add wounds, right? That's the first part. And second part, sometimes you just need to check whether he can countercharge you and fit into a certain angle. So you want to be able to just test move his units around to make sure that everything fits. Another way to do deployment is to do it asynchronously as well. So what I'll do in that situation is we deploy units and then we send the file to each other and pass it to each other to keep deploying. So for example, I deploy one unit, and you can imagine it'll take very long, right? I save the file, pass to him, he deploys one unit, and he saves the files, pass back to me. So if we were to do it this way, we'll maybe drop 2 units at a time. So it's not as accurate as playing your normal game of deploying 1 unit at a time, but it's at least half the time it takes for you to deploy these units. All right, then you save the file, pass it to him, and he will deploy 2 units. He saves the file, pass it to you, and then you'll do that until all your units are deployed. What you do next is after you have taken your turn, let's say you move your stuff up, and when you're playing by email, right, I would suggest that you turn off this lock movement, because all this movement 0.3 inches, 6.7 inches will all be in the log, which will be very difficult for the opponent to read. I'm not going to be able to read whether your Redemption Knight moved correctly just based on reading off all these logs. So I suggest turning it off. So when you turn it off, it doesn't log into the chat over here, but you don't handicap the other player. So if you're playing live, if I turn it off, I don't see it, but if my opponent has it on, he will still see the log of my movement. So I won't be masking my movement from my opponent. Okay, so live game, you turn it on. Play by email, asynchronous, you turn it off. After you moved everything, maybe you roll a dice. So I would like to describe everything. So I'll say unicorn, lightning bolts, LB5 on slasher on the left. He has 2 slashers, right? So I'll do this. I roll 5 dice for lightning bolt, 2 hits, 1 wound. So maybe I'll say 1 wound. If I have no other shooting, I'll say nerf, left, slasher. Okay, and then I'll roll. Then he's fine. Okay, and then with that, I'm gonna save the file. Strip the ID, save as a file, P1S0, for example. So step 1, you save the file. Step 2, you copy the log so that your opponent can see your dice rolls. They can check back on what dice you rolled. So you go to the gear tab, copy chat to clipboard. Hit on it once, it's copied onto your clipboard. I'm gonna switch to this. So in the past, we email each other the log. That's why it's called play by email. But I don't know who came up with this, but they found this website called justpaste.it. All right, and it's for you to paste walls of text. Okay, so just come to this website, copy and paste, right? Paste it, and there we go. All the chat log is there. Over here, I copied the chat log from one of my previous games. So in the title, you may optionally put page turn 3. You paste the text in and you hit publish. Okay, and it generates a unique link and you can send it over to your opponent, this link. Okay, so just to go through the chat log. So movement phase, Green Lady picks Radiance of Life, Redemptions, Knight's Regeneration, and then the Radiance of Life healing, and then shooting phase, or it should be correctly called the ranged phase. Unicorn, Lightning Bolt, the Injured Trombone, clear shot, so 5 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s. So 5 dice here, 3 hits, 2 wounds, so total 6 now. Rolling nerf, roll it twice cause it's inspired, and it's dead. Okay, now to the combat phase. Okay, Pegasus on Luggets, 3 attacks, 4 and 3s. So 2 wounds, rolling nerf, doesn't break. And then here Redemption Knights and Forsaken Rebel. Total 21, rolling nerf and breaks, and then rolling the sidestep. So you can see with the description before each roll, you can follow along and understand what the rolls are. So after you paste this, remember to copy this unique link and send it over to the opponent. And then they just load the file and they will play from there. So I'm just gonna create a brand new room. So I click on this bottom right, load. Okay, so there's save and load. So make sure you go to load local file, P1S0. So let's say I'm the other player, Steve. I can load this up. Yep, and I can start moving my army, doing some dice rolls and so on. Okay, and if I roll nerf and kill it, I'll put this icon here, because sometimes you charge it, you kill it and you want to reform, right? But you add this icon here so that they know where they got charged and where they died, so that they can sort of retrace the steps and know, okay, yeah, this was your original position, this reform makes sense. Or if you overrun 4 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yep, this is, at least they can retrace and say, yeah, you're in the correct position. You can add waiver tokens, and you can use clone. If you waiver more than one enemy, clone the tokens, so it's much faster than loading it out from the unit palette again, because that takes some loading time. Okay, so with that, I hope you can understand how to play by email or asynchronously, since we don't use emails now, and we're using the save file and the chat log on just paste it. Okay, and of course it would sometimes help, or most of the time I'll do it as well, is to take a screenshot of the end state and send it to the opponent. Before the opponent loads, they can already see the bot state. That is play by email. We'd just like to add on that there is a Kings of War Universal Battle 2 Facebook group where you can find Universal Battle 2 games right over here. So most of the time you'll be chatting them through Messenger. If you're playing live, you might want a voice chat to keep things going smoothly. So some closing thoughts. Yes, UB2 is great to play against players all over the world, because I'm here located in Singapore. I would love to play against players from US, from Europe, from Australia. And of course, even playing live 2.5 to 3 hours or even 4 hours, you still save the time of going down to the hobby shop, and sometimes you don't have a chance to go down as well. Asynchronous playing, you don't require a big block of time. So one of the key issues I have now is I can't find myself to be able to sit down for 3 hours for a game. So when you play asynchronously, you're playing one turn at a time, probably going to play over a few days. You just play when you have the time to do it, but it doesn't train you to play on the clock. You're not actively in the game, right? So like 2 days later, I start to play my turn, I load up the game, I have to take a few moments to process the game state. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to do this. This opponent is coming in on me, I got to remember about this. So you have to sort of refresh your mind on what is the game state. Sometimes you might get addicted and you find yourself thinking about the game all the time. You're like, okay, I passed my turn. While I'm waiting for the opponent to take his turn, I might be thinking, oh dear, he might do this. What if he routes this unit? So it might be on your mind while you're waiting for the opponent to get back to you. So take note of that, beware of that as well. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, that you might want to try out Universal Battle, or if you're already playing Universal Battle, you might want to try playing by email. So I'll close this off with a shout out to my patrons. 1 Peep patron, Anonymous; 2 Peep patron, Luke Schaefer, thank you very much; and 3 Peep patron, Guy Harper. So thank you to my patrons, you've really helped my channel a lot. And do subscribe, thumbs up, like, and the bell icon. Leave a comment, review if you enjoy or don't enjoy playing on Universal Battle, or even play by email asynchronously. I do have a Newbie Dice podcast as well. You can search Newbie Dice podcast on whatever app you use to listen to podcasts. This is my Patreon link, patreon.com/newbiedice. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next video.